want a high-performance 4K HDR LCD TV with local dimming and support for all the major HDR standards, but you don't want to pay high-end 4K TV price, well then you may be in luck. The Sony X950G might just be what you're looking for. But what is it like to actually live with? Well, stick around. Perfect. Hey guys, it's the Villaman here, home theater enthusiast and all-around tech lover, and on this channel we bring you the tech of entertainment. So we do unboxings, demos, comparisons, tips, as well as real-world reviews of TVs like this to help you find the best devices and get the most out of them. So if you're into that, then hit that subscribe button and come along for the ride. So the X950G could be considered Sony's best TV that's not the flagship Z series or one of their OLED TVs. I won't delve too much into the specs in this review since I've covered it in the unboxing and overview that's linked in the card up there. First off, this TV comes in 4 sizes in the US, 55, 65, 75, and the monstrous 85 inches if your retinas won't be satisfied with nothing less than a feast of pixels. But here we have the 65-inch version, and they're pretty much all similar, except that the X wide-angle viewing technology is only available on the 75 and 85-inch versions. Okay, so first up, let's talk about the design. The TV has a modern, minimalistic design with thin silver metallic-looking bezels surrounding the screen and 2 brushed metal feet, which are 48 inches apart at their widest point. I feel like this is pretty much a typical stand design that manufacturers put on TVs in this class, and because of that, it may not fit on just any TV stand. It has VESA mounts in the back though, for those of you who want to wall mount it. Each stand leg has a channel for wire management. The TV also has a pretty slim profile, so it'll look nice on the wall or on a TV stand. All in all, it has a premium look which I really like. The TV has 4 HDMI 2.0 ports, with HDMI 3 having the Enhanced Audio Return Channel, or EARC, to send lossless audio to your receiver. I tried it playing The Dark Knight on the Xbox One X with its Dolby True HD soundtrack, and it worked flawlessly. The Android 8.0 UI on this TV is fast and super responsive. I've criticized previous Sony TVs I reviewed for having UI issues before, but this TV puts that all to rest. On the home screen, you can arrange all your favorite app icons, as well as the icon which represents live TV, and no matter which app you're currently using, you can switch between them seamlessly at a moment's notice. It's in that same home menu that you'll find Sony's recommended apps, as well as trending videos from various sources, from YouTube to Netflix. Speaking of navigation, that remote. Sony has upped their remote game big time with this new remote. I mean, just look at it. It is a huge upgrade over the previous model. It has voice functionality to work with built-in Google Assistant on the TV, as well as dedicated app buttons for Netflix and Google Play. But most of all, it doesn't require line of sight to communicate with the TV. And Android is smart enough to identify even devices connected to the receiver and control them, from the Blu-ray player to the Apple TV to the cable box. Usability is a breeze. Bravo, Sony. But this is a TV, so as good as all of that is, what about that picture? Well, this is a full array local dimming TV, which means that it has little square zones that light up behind the panel to illuminate the image on screen. So the squares that don't need to light up will stay off in order to improve the contrast and overall picture quality. So the more zones it has, the better it can do that. That's why full array local dimming TVs can have such great picture quality. And during my time using this TV, I created an HDR local dimming test, which I think I'll use on every local dimming TV I review going forward. I used it to test and count how many local dimming zones the TV has and just how well those zones perform in HDR mode, since in that mode the backlight is usually at its max setting. I counted 60 zones on this TV, which is pretty in line with other manufacturers in this price range, like the Samsung Q80R, for example, but it's less than what manufacturers like TCL has in their 65-inch and larger 6 Series TVs. In my test, there was a fair amount of blooming, but the test represented an extreme case where there was a small bright white object moving around on the screen. I wouldn't say the backlight performance was any worse than any other TV in its class. It's just something that you're going to have to be mindful of, that given the number of local dimming zones, the potential for bloom does exist when there are bright objects on screen on a dark background. The anti-reflective coating on the screen is not as good as I would like, and as a result, it has more reflections than I'd care to see, especially in a bright room. That said, the TV does get very bright. In fact, the screen gets bright enough that it wouldn't necessarily be a problem in a bright room, especially during those brighter scenes. With darker scenes though, it can be a problem. If you have a dark room, the reflections aren't as bad, so it wouldn't necessarily be much of a problem. As far as viewing angles go, the TV does suffer from a loss of contrast when you view it off axis. As I mentioned before, only the 75-inch or larger versions have the Sony X wide angle technology to improve off-axis viewing on the TV. But since this is the 65-inch version, then I couldn't test exactly how effective that is, but those are my only complaints with this TV. The TV supports all the major HDR standards, from HDR10 to Dolby Vision, the hybrid log gamma HLG, like this video. I think that's one of the best features of this TV, especially if you watch a lot of movies, because then you won't have to worry about HDR types and simply enjoy movies in whichever format they're mastered in. Whether that be Dolby Vision with its dynamic metadata or HDR10 with its static one, the TV does not support HDR10 Plus though. All of that said, this TV has an outstanding picture. 4K sources were crisp, the colors vivid, but not oversaturated, and contrasty without noticeable black crush. I really like the way movies look on this TV. Sony has a reputation of having the best motion processing in the biz, and it shows with this TV. It was simply a great experience. It was similarly a great experience with 1080p content. The X1 Ultimate processor on this TV is really good at upscaling lower quality content like TV broadcast. At this point, it's just Sony flexing its muscles. I would disable those enhancements for 4K sources though. If you want, you can check out the best picture settings linked in the card up there. Since this isn't an HDMI 2.1 TV, it doesn't have features like auto low latency mode or variable refresh rate, but when in game mode, the input lag is pretty low at about 20 milliseconds for various input sources. So as you may have seen in the gaming demo, whether it was gaming in 4K HDR at 30 frames per second or 4K SDR at 60 frames per second, games were quick and super responsive, as you would expect from a TV in this price class. Looking funny? The image in game mode isn't quite as contrasty as the movie modes, but that's typical. There were, however, plenty of details in the shadows in darker games. If the picture isn't as contrasty as you'd like, then that's something you can always fix with changes to the backlight or contrast enhancer settings. So who is this TV for? Well, if you want a high performance TV with great image reproduction at a great price and are okay with the shortfalls of the screen I mentioned, then look no further. I really like this TV for the time I've used it, and I have absolutely no problem recommending it. So that begs the question, what do you think of the X950G? Is it the TV for you? Let me know in the comments. Also, don't forget to check out the merch store for our home theater and gaming t-shirts like this and more. Don't forget to like the video if you liked the video and subscribe if you haven't. Thanks for watching, and until next time, this has been your friend and neighborhood Villaman saying peace.